And which system of homeschooling do you use?
We use a lot of different things. We make up our own curriculum. We use some of Seton's publications. We use some of our own. We use some of the secular press that have very good publications and help us in our workbooks. We incorporate many different things.
Peter, you have you're homeschooling also?
Yes, yes, we homeschool 4 of our children that are of school age.
Mm-hmm. And what benefits do you find in that?
Well, I think that particularly for the children that struggle in certain areas, certain curriculums, the individual attention is much better for helping them through that time. You'll also find that a typical student, though he or she may have difficulty in one subject, may excel in another or 2 or 3 others. And rather than being forced to be part of a classroom where they're working at the same pace as 25 or 30 other children, they can go more quickly through the subjects that they enjoy and excel at, and for those subjects that give them more difficulty, my wife or I can spend more time, have a little more practice so that they can come around more quickly in that. They enjoy having the patient attention of a parent as opposed to kind of the forced peer pressure environment of being in the school.
Mm-hmm. Theresa?
Yeah, we homeschool also, and we use a curriculum that is put together similar to Anne's. We'll get something from Ignatius Press or TAN. We'll get secular books in math. We pick up books along the way in used bookstores. And one of the nice things about homeschooling is there's a lot of time to read. The kids are helping each other at certain times of the day, but then there's certain other times when they just have those hours or minutes to read, and it's a quiet time, and they can take in a lot. So that's one thing we enjoy about the homeschooling, and then their spiritual life, they can develop it instead of having a lot of the peer pressure that would maybe squelch some of their desires, their natural childlike desires to, devotions to God and the saints or Mary. So that's why we like it.
And I think that's one of the important things, because you do have the peer pressure in school of whoever is there, and sometimes it can be very detrimental, right? I mean, that's...
Yes. One of the things that we enjoy about homeschooling is that we don't have to have a schedule. And so a day can be different from the previous one. And we like to schedule in special trips or celebrate the feast days. We'll take the Immaculate Conception and throw a big feast day party and maybe a little procession around the house instead of school. And the religion lessons become daily life. It's not just a subject that you learn. So that's one of the things that's special to us about homeschooling, is you can do so many things, so many different ways.
I think something that has to be realized is that homeschooling unites the families. So often today, because of 2 parents working and being involved in other social activities after work, and the children being involved in sports and other recreational activities, there's more fragmentation of families. Well, all of those extracurricular activities are good, but to an extent, they tend to fragment the family. Homeschooling unites the family, brings them together. Sometimes children of different ages are able to follow the same course of study so that a parent can be working with more than one child at the same time. Just being able to be in a very relaxed setting with your children as you're teaching them strengthens the relationships. So at this time when there seems to be more distance between parents and children, homeschooling helps to strengthen those bonds, to develop those relationships that hopefully last later in life.
Theresa?
Yeah, one thing we do in our family, we've chosen a sport that the whole family can get involved in, that's swimming. And we also make a point all year long of making sure that we come together for dinner at the same time, and afterwards we'll say the rosary. So even if we have swimming in the afternoon, we'll come home. We may have to change the dinner time, but we'll be together. And then we'll say the rosary together. So the kids always see that the unity of the family is preserved. That's extremely important to me because I've seen other families go with all the different activities. They have different times for getting to the kitchen and eating, and it becomes fragmented. And so we enjoy being together and hearing about whatever is on anybody's mind. And so.
Yeah, I have a experience. I didn't homeschool my children, so I have experience with team sports and grammar school, high school, driving kids all over the countryside, and just being the chauffeur for these kids, And I always felt that there had to be a better way, and I get the feeling that you have found a better way. Is that right?
When I was a teenager, my mom couldn't wait for us to get our license, because then we became the chauffeurs. And I have 9 brothers and sisters alive, and so being one of the older ones, we would ferry them around. And we learned to hate it too. We always got together for a family meal. I don't know how Mom accomplished that, but exactly what you said, we find so much more joy in being a family than we do in running around spending all this time on extra things, that we can appreciate, I don't want to say the finer things of life, which is the joy of being together, and we like to pray together, and we also learn to grow as a family. We've changed from the way we were before. We might pray more, we might pray differently. We might incorporate this function as opposed to another. So we don't leave out things. Our children do things. They go to a sports camp, they go to different things. But it's planned so that we're not driving ourselves crazy, spreading ourselves too thin. We have that unity.
One of the things that I observe, because in the neighborhood that we live in, many of the families are much smaller than ours, although we do have one larger than ours, I'm happy to say. But I've always noticed that our children aren't the ones that are always seeking out playmates and, oh, can so-and-so come over here, or can I go and play at someone else's house? Because they have that. They have children in the house that they can play with and be friends with and do things with. And so there's never that degree of boredom that you find, or there's never that longing for a relationship, a friendship that often occurs in households where there are not as many children and the children are longing for something like that. It's not without its problems, and they do have their spats and disagreements, but at the same time, the fact that they're with one another, as was said before, causes them to realize that later on in life they'll have these occasions too where they'll have disagreements or a different point of view, and they'll have to learn to work things out rather than let it fester and cause larger problems.